Silent road, virtual threat, keystroke kill, identity hidden, I fulfill. Cyber assassin, that's my prowl. Codes in hand, you'll fall. Hack and strike, chaos I make. Cyber realm, my domain to take.
Even I'm so sick of myself right now. I have cut everybody off, literally, like, I don't mean cut everybody off, okay? I've closed my energy off. I'm not reciprocating energy to anyone, like the females that I was seeing, I have ceased to see any of them. My kids are doing their things, they're with their friends, and they don't even stay here in my house anymore. So I have, for the first time in, I can't even tell you, like 20 some odd years, day after day, night after night, I'm alone in my own house, which is, it's awesome and it's strange. It takes so much getting used to be by yourself, like fully alone. I've done solo and, not in a relationship plenty of times. It's not a completely new thing to me, but, at least having somebody to go see every once in a while or something. But, being someone who is basically celibate, and I believe in maintaining and holding your essence for your own strength. It feeds your spirit, feeds your soul. Your body's able to heal. If you're spilling your own seed, you definitely aren't healing, or your brain isn't working right because you don't have the right proteins and amino acids. Your body's completely trying to replenish itself instead of going about its higher order of functions. If you don't have your proteins and your energy and your essence, then you can't truly grow. And I don't mean physically, I mean spiritually, emotionally. You're not going to have your dreams like you should. You're not going to manifest. You're not going to take action either. You're going to tend to want to rest more and relax more. And that's the other weird thing. I've gotten into this different rhythm of relaxation. I've been able to spend more time relaxing, like midday. For the past couple weeks, I take a nap. In the middle of the day, I take a nap every single day. And it feels so good. I know it's a natural thing. We all basically do the sleep 8 hours at least, 10 hours, whatever people do, 6 hours. I typically do about 6 hours. That's what I used to do. But I think it is a natural function, like our circadian rhythm has 3 different dips in it where your energy wants to go down and wants to nap naturally. That's the natural way of being. And for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm falling in the order of natural function of my body. Like I'm allowing my body to exist in a way that it was meant to. I'm getting the right amount of exercise. I'm staying busy and hitting my goals with, preparing my house for sell or rent. Now I'm considering renting, seeing how I can rent it for almost twice what my mortgage is. I didn't know that, but the neighborhood supports that in the current rents for a house, like mine. So that's a thought, instead of sell, rent, but I just don't know. Still, I'm just tooling along and fixing what needs to be fixed as if I'm going to sell it still. but I don't even know where I'm gonna go. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I have no idea. And I feel okay with that too. As long as I'm moving towards the end goal, house completely prepared for sale. I've got a tankless water heater. I'm gonna go ahead and install that and just get things set up such that it would withstand being rented. I've got all the paint, so I'm gonna paint the outside. I did all the trim and fascia repairs. Now I just need to do the scraping and filling and caulking and then paint it. But, there's not a lot that the house needs, let me put it that way. And I have this whole thing after working in the trades for so many years. I've got at this point, almost 30 years in the trades. I have this thought that homes reflect the people that live in them. Like when I would go into a house, because I typically was doing repairs, I always would see symptoms of the home issues in the people. And that's where I really started to reflect the inside reflects the outside world. And it holds true in the house, it holds true in your pets and your animals and your car. And the things that are happening inside of you are also externally happening as well. And with that in mind, tending to your inner self and being mindful of what you are saying and feeding yourself your own internal narrative, your own conversation that you hold and have, the things that you spend time and focus on. I gave up Facebook. I haven't had any social media contact. And, lo and behold, some people have called that I haven't talked to in a long time. And as they do, I am adding them back into my phone list because I'm like, whoever I see in the real world is a real person to me. And, not that the people that I don't see aren't real, but if we don't see each other, what's the deal? Why are we communicating all the time? I don't have time to be concerned with what you're doing, thousands of miles away, unless it's important. If it were, you would call me, right? How life used to be, people used to call each other and talk. Now we just see what we're doing and we don't even communicate. We just look at each other's posts. It's so weird to me. It's so impersonal. And that's part of why I let it go is I'm looking now for more personal living, more, tactile, functional, actual connections with people. And in this, I've had so much time to reflect. Like I said, I've been having dreams again. I had a dream last night of, when I decoded it, it was something of, I was with someone who I had as an apprentice and someone who I apprenticed with. And we were all rock climbing in the guise of looking for gold. And we were in this area where we were climbing and we got into a hairy situation where we couldn't get down and it was dangerous. It was perilous. We're in a very dangerous spot and it was scary, but I didn't allow myself to get scared. And my apprentice and my, teacher, my journeyman, they were leading me in the wrong direction. They were scared and they were trying to get me to make moves that were probably going to hurt myself, or themselves too. They were starting to freak out and in true me fashion, I just slowed down and thought rationally and looked around, and where we couldn't see, but I felt there was a way. I reached up, I felt the handhold, and I just, I'm gonna take a look. And I took a look, reached up where I couldn't see and lifted myself up, and sure enough, there was a hole through the rock, and it's oh, cool, we're fine, man. We get up here, and then it's easy. We can go this way. And the lesson for me personally was
we got to be teachers and learners all the time. Like, you can't say that you're the master and not still be learning, okay? There's no such thing. I had my learner and my master both, and me in the middle, and I try to embody that. I really do. But I think we get lost, when you're with, a journeyman. You fall into, well, they know what they're doing, so I have to listen to them. But you got to use your own brain. You have to imagine, this thing doesn't have a brain. Think for yourself. Like, you think that the guy in front of you knew what he was doing, but that's an assumption, and that makes an ass out of you an umption. You have to pretend as if the person in front of you doesn't know what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely, if they have obtained a title and stuff, something got them there. And you should probably take what they're saying to heart and listen, but at the same time, still question. Because just because they were educated doesn't mean that you might see something new or see it in a better way. Sometimes following that professional's opinion or their best guess, due to their education, can lead you to peril. And in the same way, thinking that you know best and not listening to someone who you are teaching is not seeing that fresh eyes sometimes realize things in ways that you were not able to see because of your education. Because you saw it in a certain way, you were unable or unwilling to see it the way that they do. And they see with fresh eyes, oh, well, why don't you do this? And I can't tell you how many times I've done that on the job. I'm doing something the way I was taught and the way that I've always done it. And I'm training somebody who has zero experience, and they're like, well, why don't you do it like this? I'm like, that's brilliant. Like, why didn't I ever think of that? Thank you. And I thank you totally. Like, I'm not too proud. I am humble enough to take good advice, even from those who are uneducated. They have no idea. But you got to understand, sometimes people are spirit-led. Sometimes it's a test for you to learn a lesson, to have to listen to somebody who you see that is under you and find that their perspective is spot on. Education aside, like, you may have 10 years, you spilled your entire life into this and you know everything about it. But you know what? You don't have this certain background that tends this person to see it this way. And wow, that was the missing part. Just like the medicine man. He's looking for the cure and he's finding this and that and he's all these plants. But you know what? It was the ant. It was the ant that was the key. Not a plant at all. It was a little insect, right? So sometimes it's accidental things. It's randomness. It's allowing that random thing to be observed and giving it space, allowing it to show you something in a new light outside of what you are being rigid on. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm not being rigid at all. I'm really just going with flow and letting where I feel I'm supposed to be going lead me. I have a plan and I'm just going with my plan. There's nothing wrong with that. Even though I don't know exactly where I'm going, and I go back to like AA and counseling shit that I went through in the past with HALT, right? HALT means, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Because these 4 aspects of being a human can greatly have effect on your thoughts, on your actions, on how you are going to go about things. If you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, you got to stop and